Prologue, June 1817. Emma Newbury leant on the frame of the huge wooden and at the moment open front doors of Aspley Manor. Her gaze roamed over the lawns, to the slightly untamed flower beds, their riotous profusion of colour almost painful to the eye on this bright summer's morning, then beyond to the scattering of oak and copper beech which stood like sentinels along the driveway. She could hear people talking, but it was muted, and she surmised they were in her father's study at the far side of the entrance hall. She supposed they might like some refreshments, but she had no idea how to heat the water, to make coffee or tea. Pathetic. Sighing, she straightened up and turned from the view, of which she never tired, into the cool dimness of the house. Trailing into the study, she saw 4 men surrounding Papa's desk. They were combing through papers, adding some to a neat stack of ledgers at one side, tossing others into the fire, their conversation conducted in undertones. Emma nearly laughed out loud. Since her father's death, this house had been like a tomb. No one raised their voice, no one smiled. Yes, the circumstances were grim, but life had to go on, and she was beginning to wonder when, or whether, the pall would lift. It was too quiet, and of late Emma often had to quash an irresistible urge to burst into song, or shout random words, or worse, whistle, a positively unseemly habit. Her mother and younger sister Sybil had departed over a week ago, travelling to the Cotswolds, where they would take up residence with an elderly aunt and uncle. The staff left 4 days after that. New positions found for all of them. Fortunately for the tenant farmers, their livelihoods were secure, as the estate required managing. Emma was the sole remaining occupant of Aspley Manor, but the house she had lived in since her birth was no longer her home. The visitors glanced up at the sound of her footfall, which echoed in the unnatural silence. "I am afraid I cannot offer you a hot beverage." A faint blush warmed her cheeks at having to admit their lack of domestic help, despite the fact these men already knew. "But I am sure there is some lemonade in the kitchens, or if you prefer something stronger, we have wine and spirits." "Thank you, my dear. A glass of whisky apiece would be appreciated." Henry Troughton, Duke of Driffield, smiled gently at the pale young woman hovering on the threshold, wishing, not for the first time, she would smile back. He disliked being a party to this task, but it was essential, and he would rather it was he than someone with no sympathy for the family. Not only had Charles, the late Viscount Aspley, been a distant relative, a cousin on his mother's side, he was also a friend. The circumstances leading up to this point were murky, necessitating lengthy investigation, and the 2 men had agreed the only way to help Charles was for him to transfer the deeds for his properties to Henry, giving them some breathing space to uncover the truth. Regrettably, Charles's sudden death put an end to their objectives, although at least the manor was safe for the foreseeable future. Now Henry was trying to pick up the pieces with as little disruption as possible, and had asked Emma to join his family at Driffield Park as a companion of sorts to his own daughter Charity. Long indulged, Charity was in danger of becoming quite the obnoxious madam, her father at a loss as to how to deal with her wilful petulance, his patience hanging by a thread. He was hoping Emma's generally serene and sensible attitude might prove a stabilising influence. In her turn, while she poured the drinks, Emma studied the newcomers covertly. Uncle Henry, as she had called his Grace since her childhood, was a regular guest at Aspley Manor, but the trio who accompanied him were strangers, and their presence sent icy finger down her spine. Why were they here? What could Papa possibly have kept in his study that was of interest? No one thought to enlighten her. She was female and therefore not privy to business dealings, but Emma was an astute young woman, and all this secrecy frustrated her.